When I transmigrated into the book, the story had already ended. The male and female leads had retired from Jianghu, and the second male lead had taken control of the kingdom. I became a minor character who was a doctor, and one day while gathering herbs in the mountains, I found a severely injured man. During the process of healing his wounds, we gradually developed feelings for each other, and it was only natural that we got married. I always believed that he, like me, was just an unremarkable minor character in the book. It wasn't until we were completely surrounded by the second male lead's royal guards that I realized he was actually the male lead's strongest sidekick NPC, the once top assassin in the world, Ping Chang. Recently, my husband had been acting a bit off. He often seemed distracted and forgetful. Yesterday, when he took the prey to town to exchange for rice and grain, I reminded him to deliver the wild ginseng to Uncle Chen at the pharmacy on East Street. When he returned, the rice was gone, but the wild ginseng was brought back intact. "Ah, Ping, what are you daydreaming about?" He was stunned for a moment, and I pointed to the tofu that he had chopped into mush. Normally, his knife skills were exceptional. He could even carve flowers out of tofu. But today, something was off. He awkwardly used the back of the knife to scrape the mashed tofu into a bowl. I took the bowl without blaming him, my eyes flickering as a lively expression spread across my face. "Let's not waste it. How about we add some sesame oil and dried shrimp to make a savory tofu pudding? What do you think?" He chuckled softly. "Sure." That night, he was as affectionate with me as usual, and soon I was too tired to stay awake and fell asleep. But I'm a light sleeper, so I quickly woke up again. I realized I was alone in bed. The right side was empty. I touched it with my hand. It was still warm, so he must have just gotten up. "I know. Hurry up and go before you get caught." "Isn't your wife asleep?" "She's a light sleeper." There were two voices outside the door. I quietly got out of bed and crept to the door, holding my breath. Ah Ping was standing there, draped in an outer robe. Opposite him stood a man in tight-fitting clothes, armed with a sword and looking quite skilled. The man clicked his tongue. "Having a family really is true." Ah Ping's side profile practically screamed. "Hurry up and get lost." The other man was left speechless and quickly exited through the window. I rushed back to bed and lay down. After sending the man off, Ah Ping returned to the room. He took off his outer robe and climbed back into bed. As he was about to lie down, his hand accidentally brushed against a ticklish spot on my waist, making me twitch involuntarily. "Did I wake you?" I pretended to be half asleep, murmured a few unintelligible words, and then turned over to hug him, continuing to sleep. He planted a kiss on my cheek, sighed softly near my ear, and then wrapped his arms tightly around me. He was definitely hiding something from me. Early in the morning, Ah Ping went down the mountain again. He said he needed to deliver the wild ginseng to Uncle Chen and would also bring back a fresh fish from the market for me. I didn't idle either and carried a basket into the mountains to gather herbs. Recently, the mountain had been damp, which was perfect for the growth of some rare medicinal plants. I wanted to collect more, sell them for extra money, and save up to reach my goal of 30,000 taels of gold as soon as possible. Unknowingly, I ventured deeper into the forest. Noticing the lush vegetation in this area, I had a feeling there might be something valuable here. I crouched down and was just about to pull out the hoe from my basket when a cold, gleaming arrow suddenly shot out from the forest. I dodged to the side, and the arrow grazed my thigh, causing a sharp pain. I hissed as blood began to seep through my pant leg. "Ah, my apologies, miss." A man dressed in a black brocade robe emerged from behind a tree not far away. He spoke apologetically, but his eyes carried a mocking glint. "I'm a hunter here to hunt foxes in the mountains. I didn't see clearly and mistook you for a fox." I gritted my teeth. Damn it, I ran into an idiot. What kind of hunter wears silk? I vaguely sensed that there were others hidden behind him, emanating a murderous aura. Suppressing my anger, I coldly said, "If it was unintentional, then fine. But you've injured me, so you'll have to compensate me for the medical expenses." I pointed at the blood on my leg. He hadn't expected me to be so direct and looked at me with disdain. "Fine." With a wave of his hand, a silk pouch was tossed at my feet. I opened it to find 10 taels of gold inside. Quite generous. Much appreciated. Interesting. but you should be more careful when you enter the mountains in the future. If you have a young man at home, it would be best to have him accompany you." His words were not well-intentioned and hinted at something deeper. A young man? Was he referring to Ah Ping? I frowned, said nothing, and quickly picked up my basket to leave. Today was not a good day to linger in the mountains. "Wife, I'm back." When Ah Ping returned, I had already changed my clothes and was busy in the kitchen. He immediately put down the fish and moved me away from the stove, saying, "You've worked hard all day. Let me take over." I hissed in pain, and he frowned, trying to check me over in a panic, asking, "What's wrong?" "Husband, you're so good." I quickly wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him on the cheek. Seeing his ears turn slightly red, I burst out laughing. Ah Ping helplessly rubbed his cheek. Then, as if in a fit of frustration, cupped my face and started kissing me. His stubble prickled painfully against my lips, and I quickly begged for mercy. I'm sorry. Spare me, husband." While he was cooking, I quietly slipped into the inner room, lifted my pant leg, and as expected, the wound had reopened. After checking to make sure no one was around, I unwrapped the bandage and applied fresh medicine. Just as I put away the medicine box, I heard Ah Ping call out, "Wife, dinner's ready." "This sea fish makes a delicious fish slices. Come and try it." I nodded, saying nothing. 2 years ago, when I brought him home after finding him in the mountains, he told me he couldn't remember anything. This place was far from the sea, making it difficult to find fresh sea fish, let alone know how to prepare fish slices. After dinner, I was inside tidying up the bedding while he was outside by the well washing the dishes. His handsome face was lowered as he clumsily wiped the bowls and chopsticks. I had always thought he was not good with words and somewhat clumsy, but I didn't expect him to have a bit of cunning as well. Sensing that I had been watching him, he suddenly spoke up. "Wife, is there something you want to say?" I cleared my throat guiltily. "It's getting late and damp outside. Come back in as soon as you're done." "I know." He raised an eyebrow slightly. "You missed me, didn't you?" I pretended to be shy and lightly scolded him. When he came inside, I was recording the household accounts. He gently placed his hands on my shoulders. "You're still working on the accounts this late?" I pretended to complain, turning back to give him a playful, reproachful glance. "It's all your fault. I told you not to buy that moonlight cotton, but you insisted. Now we haven't saved much money this month. But that fabric suits you," he said, his hand moving to my waist. "You look beautiful in it. But it's expensive. When will I ever—" I suddenly remembered something and quickly shut my mouth. Ah Ping didn't seem to notice. Instead, he smiled and kissed my temple, saying, "What should I do with my little money-loving wife?" I turned to tease him, but before I could say a word, his hand tightened around my waist, and he seized the moment to kiss me. It looked forceful, but the kiss was incredibly gentle. In a daze, I caught a familiar scent. It was an anesthetic incense. How silly of him! He forgot that I'm a doctor. I pretended to be fast asleep. In the darkness, I felt him carefully lift the leg of my pants and apply a cool ointment to my wound. So, he had noticed my injury after all. After retreating the wound, he quietly tucked the blanket around me, and I felt a cold kiss on my forehead. Then, there was the rustling sound of bricks being pried up and the creaking noise of a window being opened. Finally, there was the sound of a stool being moved, and then everything fell silent. I held my breath and listened. Clap, clap! Who would have thought that even a once ruthless and unrelenting killer couldn't escape the trap of love? Accompanied by crisp, rhythmic clapping, a familiar male voice echoed in the room. I wasn't prepared for this, and was startled, forcing myself to stay perfectly still. It was that bastard who shot the arrow at me in the mountains today. The sound of steady footsteps approached, then stopped. "You've surrounded my humble home with the royal guards. What's your intention?" "What do you think?" "Huo Zhao, when my master handed over the kingdom, you promised to spare the Long Night Army. Why have you gone back on your word?" "How dare you? The emperor's name is not something you can casually speak." A rough voice interrupted Ah Ping. The man named Huo Zhao spoke again. "How could it be going back on my word? I simply value talent. If you were willing to serve him, why not stay and serve me instead? Unfortunately, your comrades didn't understand this, and as for you..." A chill passed through my nose, and I clearly heard the faint clink of blades crossing near my ear. How dare you! It was the first time I heard Ah Ping roar like that. He usually spoke to me in a gentle tone. I had never seen him lose control like this. Ha ha! Your knife skills and speed are as sharp as ever. As expected from the top assassin, Ping Chang. Was it you who injured my wife today? And what if it was? She's just a mere village woman. If you're willing to serve me, I'll give you as many as you hiss. How dare you harm the emperor? He wounded my wife's leg, so I took his hand. Fair and reasonable. Ah Ping's voice was cold and clear, sending chills down my spine. Don't be so quick to anger. If you refuse to join me, that's fine. But if you cooperate, once I find Rongju and Heisui, I'll reunite you with your wife. If you dare refuse. At that moment, the rest of their conversation turned into a blur in my ears. Only a few names echoed in my mind. Rongjue, Heisui, Huo Zhao. My god, aren't these the names of the main characters from the book Blossom's Fall? What? Ah, Ping! He was actually the male lead's strongest sidekick NPC, the once top assassin in the world, Ping Chang. That's right, I was a transmigrator. To be precise, I was a book traveler. I had purchased the Transmigration Bureau's recommended 998 yuan special package and ended up in the novel Blossom's Fall, a story where both the male and female leads were incredibly strong. I transmigrated as an insignificant character, a doctor who treated the main characters for minor injuries when they faced setbacks. When I transmigrated into the book, the story had already ended. The male and female leads had retired from Jianghu, and the second male lead had taken control of the kingdom. After the system finished its introduction, it let out a sly laugh. The 998 yuan experience service introduction is complete, but don't be sad, dear. There's still a special discount package available. That's perfect. I immediately interrupted the system. This was exactly the reason why I, an introvert, bought this special package. The story had already ended, so I could do whatever I wanted. A peaceful, green, and pollution-free countryside life. Here I come. But after a month, I started missing my phone and tablet. I sought out the system. The system responded in a sarcastic tone. Sorry, dear, but according to Clause 10 of the package agreement, you must stay online for 50 years before you can log out and return to the real world. Damn it, why didn't you just say I'd be stuck here forever? This clause is clearly unreasonable. Let me tell you, I studied law. Please calm down, dear. According to Clause 11 of the package agreement, if you want to log out early, you need to meet the following task condition. What condition? Accumulate a total of 30,000 gold in the book. Damn it, who could I even complain to? I had no choice but to compromise and began my arduous struggle to earn 30,000 gold in the book. The evil forces of capitalism, we common folks have no right to rest easy anywhere. Until I found Ah Ping in the mountains. When I met Ah Ping, I was digging for ginseng in the mountains. A loud crack of a tree branch breaking echoed through the forest, and I followed the sound to find him lying on the ground. He was almost completely covered in blood, barely clinging to life. I hesitated for a while, but eventually dragged him back home, because his face was just too handsome, and the fabric of his clothes looked incredibly luxurious. He must be rich, an opportunity for great fortune. I couldn't just let it slip by. But when he woke up, his expression remained indifferent, barely acknowledging me. I asked him what his name was. His lips trembled for a while before he softly replied, Ah Ping! When I tried to apply medicine to his wounds, he blocked me, insisting on doing it himself. When I talked to him, he responded with as few words as possible. Sigh. As expected, those who don't purchase the expensive package have no right to pursue handsome men at all. Oh well, I decided not to take it personally. Just as I turned to think about how to take advantage of the situation, he spoke again. He asked me to take him down the mountain in a couple of days, and as a reward, he promised to fulfill my requests once he found his people. Ah, the wound is still bleeding, yet he's in such a hurry to leave. Is he worried I might blackmail him? It's not good for you to be moving around so soon after being injured. It's fine. If you don't trust me, miss, this jade pendant can serve as collateral for some silver. Worried I might refuse to take him down the mountain, he hurriedly pulled out a jade pendant from around his neck to give it to me. I reluctantly accepted the pendant and said, "Since you insist, I'll take you down the mountain in a couple of days." He seemed relieved. "Thank you, miss." "It's nothing, just a small favor, and you don't have to keep calling me miss. My name is Sume." But before I could finish, his eyes suddenly lit up. "What did you say your name was?" Sume? Could this name have triggered some transmigration taboo? Actually, this was my real name. The book never mentioned what the female doctor was called. She lived deep in these remote mountains with few acquaintances, so I had no idea what her name was supposed to be. Which May is it? The May from May Gui, rose. Not knowing what era this was or if he had ever seen a rose, I took his hand and wrote the character May in his palm. This May. I understand. His voice trembled slightly. He looked at the jade pendant in my hand, his expression suddenly filled with regret. I hurriedly put away the jade pendant, then looked up to see him lower his eyes, stammering, I just thought about it. In this remote mountain forest with rugged paths, and me being injured, if we were to encounter any wild beasts, like wolves or tigers, the two of us would certainly be powerless to fend them off. Perhaps it's better to wait until I've recovered before making any plans? It's fine. The mountain is safe. I promise to get you down without any trouble. He swayed a bit, half closing his eyes weakly. My head hurts. It seems I've forgotten many things. Even if I go down, I wouldn't know where to go. Miss Sume, you saved me, and I have nothing to repay you with. If you don't mind, once I'm healed, I'll stay and work for you, doing whatever you ask. What just happened? How could this guy change his attitude faster than flipping a page in a book? All right, then. After hesitating for a moment, I nodded in agreement and added, "But you have to help me earn 30,000 gold." He looked surprised, then smiled, his expression as if he were about to cry. All right? I initially thought he was just pretending to agree to my request, but to my surprise, he worked tirelessly, as if afraid that I might change my mind if he slacked off even for a day. Even while bandaged, he insisted on helping with chores like washing clothes and cooking, and no matter how much I tried to stop him, he wouldn't listen. As he got better, he proposed going up the mountain to hunt and gather herbs, determined to earn the 30,000 gold I needed. "Miss Sume, here's a white fox and an ermine I just hunted. Miss Sume, here's a tiger and a black bear. These are mandrakes and bloodbirds' nests." Despite his lean build, his stamina was incredible. No matter how rare the prey or herbs were, whether deep in the forest or on the edge of a cliff, he always managed to find them effortlessly. Could someone like him really be just an ordinary person? I wasn't stupid. Of course, I had my suspicions about him. But as these rare creatures and valuable herbs slowly turned into stacks of silver notes in my hands, I found myself waking up in the middle of the night, counting money while muttering, "Hehehe, I'm going home. I'm going home. Who cares who he is? He's just a character from a book. There's no way he could stop me from going home. Miss Sume, here's a pair of embroidered shoes from Kaidie Xuan. The shopkeeper said it's the latest fashion this year. Miss Sume, here's a rhinoceros horn from Jianghu in the capital. The mountain air is cold, so keep it by your bed at night. Miss Sume." As the silver notes dwindled, I fell silent. He really could stop me from going home. I need to tell you some. Before I could finish, he fed me something cold. It's almond tofu I just bought. It's sweet, soothes the throat, and reduces heat. How does it taste? It was pretty tasty, but it's too expensive. Money is meant to be spent. If it runs out, you can always earn more. One shouldn't be a slave to money, don't you think, Miss Sume? Whoa, words of wisdom. Though, why did that sound so familiar? But never mind, it's not so bad having a handsome guy earning money for me to spend. Maybe it was his charm and the allure of wealth, but I found myself growing fond of him. Some time passed, and we got married. It mainly happened because of the Lantern Festival when we drank a bit too much. The next morning, we woke up, sitting on the bed, disheveled and staring at each other. Well, I've just gotten myself a handsome and capable husband. Life is short, so why not enjoy it? After all, even back in my world, I might never have met someone like him. But in all this joy, I nearly forgot that I was just a traveler in this book. Yet, everything that happened tonight brought me back to reality. My husband, the top assassin in the world, ended up in this poor, remote village, washing clothes and cooking for a penniless orphan like me. You say he did it for me, but I just can't quite believe it. I hadn't confronted him earlier because he was a good man who could earn a lot of money for me to spend. Sigh, I just made the same mistake every woman in this world would make. Yes, I wasn't wrong. Looking back on my time with Ping Chang, there were so many oddities. According to the book's setting, the Long Night Army he belonged to was a special unit under the male lead's command. Every member was highly skilled in martial arts, and to complete their missions, they could even change their names, live under false identities, and spend their lives in disguise. Could I have some secret identity that made me worth such a top-tier individual lurking around me? No. How could that be? I'm just a character from a 998 yuan package, someone so insignificant that the author didn't even bother to give me a proper name. How could I dare to imagine that the capitalist would take the time to design a complex character background for such a marginal role? No one would believe it, not even a ghost. Wife, what is it that not even a ghost would believe? Ping Chang stood at the doorway, staring at me. Only then did I realize I'd been thinking out loud. I was about to explain when I noticed something strange. He was fully dressed, looking like he was about to go out. Ping, are you going down the mountain again today? I heard that merchants from the north are coming to trade today, so I'm taking some goods to see if I can get a good price. Then go early and come back early. It looks like it might rain later. All right, whatever you say, wife. As he was about to leave, I couldn't help but call him back. Ping, is there something you want to say? Yes. He paused, turned his head to glance at me, his gaze scrutinizing. His fingers lightly rubbed together, an unconscious habit of his when he was nervous. So he really had a guilty conscience. I playfully made a gesture at him. Bring me back a tanghulu, okay? Remember to buy it from Granny Jiang in the South Market. Her skewers have 10 pieces for just 5 coins. He was stunned for a moment. Then his chest shook with deep laughter. He shook his head, flicked my forehead, and said, "All right, my wife isn't just a little money grubber, but also a little glutton." After sending him off with a smile, I went back inside and started tapping on the floor tiles. Finally, I found a hidden compartment with a hollowed-out mechanism. Was this the tile he lifted last night? Inside was a long box. It was empty. Did he take whatever was inside? I reached in further, feeling something cold and solid. I grabbed one piece and took it out. I put it back, but it wouldn't fit into the original space. Something was blocking it. After struggling for a while, a little book fell out. I casually flipped through it. Cold sweat broke out across my forehead. Silently, I put the book away, replaced the floor tile, and kicked some dust over it. If I had wanted to play dumb before, now I definitely needed to confront him and get some answers. Mountain weather is unpredictable, and soon enough, it started to rain. I closed the window, extinguished the candle, and took off my outer robe before crawling into bed. About half an hour later, the room filled with a faint creaking sound, accompanied by a slight chill from the rain. In an instant, a dim green light illuminated the room, casting its glow on Ping Chang, who was sneaking around stealthily. "Wife, you're still awake?" I rolled the glowing pearl in my hand. Of course, I wasn't asleep. I knew he'd be lurking outside, so I deliberately put out the candle and waited. He awkwardly chuckled, lit the candle by the door, and the room instantly brightened. "Wife, how many times have I told you not to read storybooks under the covers? Why don't you listen? What will you do if you ruin your eyes?" Reading the little book was just a coincidence. As he knelt beside the bed, lecturing me, he suddenly froze, stammering, "Wife, you know? Don't you?" He must have seen the book. I gave him a cool glance. The tables had turned. He was now kneeling on the floor while I sat on the bed. "Go ahead. How long have you been deceiving me?" He remained silent. No response. Huh? I picked up the book and flipped to a page, reading aloud. Yuankang, Year 11, March 7th. Today she didn't go into the mountains. Instead, she spent the day at the well, pulling up water buckets, mumbling something about how to fetch water properly. I turned to another page. Yuankang, Year 12, August. After reading a few more pages, I closed the book. Yuankang was the era name of the previous dynasty. So this was all recorded before I found you, wasn't it? How do you explain that? An eerie silence filled the room. You knew me, so why pretend not to? If we knew each other, why wouldn't you know that I was deceiving you? His sudden question made my scalp tingle, and I froze. Oh no, could we really have known each other? The novel didn't mention it, at least I don't think it did. I skimmed through the introduction of this novel before I set off. I suddenly noticed him looking at me with a teasing expression. Wait a minute, these records were clearly him observing me from a first-person perspective. I almost fell for it. I don't know you, you peeping Tom? Trying to deceive me? You're way too cunning. He looked relieved, raising an eyebrow as if satisfied with my answer, and nodded with a doting smile. My wife is right, I'm way too cunning. Suddenly, he stood up, and before I could react, he hoisted me over his shoulder and headed towards the bathhouse. Don't think you can change the subject. I got soaked in the rain earlier. Keep me company while I wash, and I'll explain everything in detail. I put on my clothes and lay in his arms. His chin rested on the top of my head, one hand around my waist. He kissed my hair before slowly beginning to explain. He told me that his real name was Ping Chang, and he was a subordinate of the former crown prince, Rong Jue, responsible for leading the Long Night Army. A year ago, Rong Jue handed over the kingdom to the current emperor, Huo Zhao, and chose to retire to the mountains with his wife, He Sui. Rong Jue intended to disband the Long Night Army, but Huo Zhao had other plans and wanted to recruit them. He tried to win me over, but I refused. Most of the brothers and I were orphans who joined the Long Night Army out of gratitude for the Rong family taking us in, compared to a life of licking the blade's edge. He paused, stealing a kiss from me before continuing. Huo Zhao did not force them to stay. However, just a few days after leaving the capital, he was ambushed by several groups. Sensing something was wrong, he went to find his brothers, only to discover that they had either been killed or had gone missing. He was ambushed along the way and was only able to break through with great difficulty. Was it Huo Zhao who wanted you dead? I wasn't surprised. That scoundrel always looked like a villain. He held me tightly, gently stroking my hair, and said, "And then my kind wife picked me up and brought me home." He took the opportunity to kiss my cheek and neck, his hands not idle either. I playfully elbowed his chest. "So, are you planning to fight back?" I told them to keep their voices down, but I guess they still woke you up. He muttered softly, sensing my displeasure, and then continued. "We've been planning for a while now. Master will meet with us in 2 days, and will take down that scoundrel." As he said this, there was no smile in his eyes. He didn't look like his usual self at all. I frowned. He quickly returned to his gentle demeanor, pulling me closer to him. "Don't worry." I wanted to ask him more, but he lowered his head and kissed my lips, murmuring, "The night is short, let's talk about the rest tomorrow." I dodged his kiss, my breathing uneven. "Wait, I feel like you're still hiding something from me." A wave of heat surged from my chest, and my rationality crumbled like a city under siege. That sleep was deep and dreamless. When I woke up the next morning, Ping Chang was already gone. The little book was gone too. A skewer of tanghulu wrapped in oiled paper was placed beside the bed, with a note tucked underneath. "Wait for me to come back." Ha! Well played, Ping Chang. You tricked me again. He didn't even bother explaining that book. There's definitely something fishy going on. Could it be that he had a crush on the original character I'm bound to? Then what does that make me? A substitute lover for an assassin? But according to that record, the original character's personality was all over the place. One moment, she was lamenting over the changing seasons, too delicate to fend for herself. The next, she was shouting about punching tigers on South Mountain and kicking dragons in the North Sea. The more I thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Something was off about the original character. I'm just an ordinary office worker who wanted to find a peaceful place to relax. Is that so wrong? Why do I have to deal with all these complications? I clutched my head and knelt on the floor. Forget it. Whoever wants to be the substitute can be it. I have to wait just because he told me to? Do I look that cheap? But I still waited. I didn't mean to wait for him. I had originally planned to leave after delivering the promised medicine to Uncle Chen, but Uncle Chen suddenly became like an NPC with a set quota of tasks. I'd deliver the goods, and he'd give me another task. This cycle continued endlessly, dragging on for half a month, and somehow I started getting more and more into it. Sigh! I guess I really am destined to be a workhorse. When I finally had some free time, I discovered something even more devastating. The gold under the floor tiles was gone. That's right, what I had taken out from under the tiles before, it was the 30,000 gold. Now there was no way back. 50 years. I might as well be sent straight to prison. I collapsed onto the floor, utterly despondent. How dare he? Ping Chang, you big liar. If you've got the guts, come back right now and explain everything to me. Just as I finished shouting in frustration, there was a sudden, urgent knock on the door. No way. Could he really be back already? I rolled up my sleeves, ready to drag that scoundrel inside the moment I opened the door. But when I opened it, I was met with two unfamiliar faces. I froze. Are you Miss Su? Ping Chang is injured, and only you can save him. Outside stood a man and a woman, with Ping Chang, pale as a ghost, leaning against the man's back. I was shocked. He's badly injured. Please let us bring him inside, the man instructed calmly as he followed me into the house. I helped lay Ping Chang down and quickly examined him. There didn't seem to be any visible wounds on his body, but his face was as white as a sheet. I took his pulse, growing more anxious by the second. What happened to him? What's wrong with him? The woman explained the situation to me. It turned out they were the male and female leads, Rongjue and Hisui. Apparently, the petty second male lead completely lost it after being rejected by the Long Night Army. He caused so much trouble that the male and female leads eventually came out of the remote mountains and dealt with him. Before he died, he even managed to poison the male and female leads to cause them more trouble. But while the male and female leads had the protagonist's plot armor to protect them, Ping Chang took the brunt of it all. Ping Chang had been poisoned. If the antidote wasn't found soon, the poison would reach his vital organs. Seeing my distress, Hisui took my hand and reassured me. Don't worry, this poison can be cured with the herb crane-tail white as the antidote. My heart skipped a beat as a memory flashed through my mind. Crane-tail white? Isn't that the sacred herb from the female lead's clan in the original novel? I immediately knelt down. We are deeply grateful for your help and will remember your kindness. So, please, Miss Sume, bring out the crane-tail white. The three of us knelt on the ground, speaking in unison, then looked at each other in confusion. Are they scamming me? How on earth would I have that sacred herb? Miss Hisui, this isn't the time to joke around. Crane-tail white is your clan's sacred herb. I couldn't care less about manners anymore. I grabbed Hisui by the shoulders and shook him frantically. Miss, please calm down. But I gave you the sacred herb 5 years ago. Hisui, after being shaken for a while, finally managed to get the words out. She gave it to me 5 years ago? Is that so? My brain started to shut down completely. Isn't that so? They looked at my genuinely confused expression and exchanged uncertain glances. They helped me up, and Rongjue was the first to break the silence. We knew you had the crane-tail white, which is why we rushed to bring Ping Chang here. Miss Sume, do you really not remember? Hisui quickly recounted what happened 5 years ago. It turned out they had met me back then. At the time, the male lead had been on the brink of death from poisoning, and no doctor nearby could figure out the cause. Hisui, desperate, had taken out the sacred herb crane-tail white to try her luck. The herb was rumored to cure all ailments, though the truth of that was uncertain. But I suddenly fell from the sky and stopped her. I immediately identified the problem, removed a poisonous insect from the male lead's neck, and miraculously brought him back from the brink of death. And one of the conditions I set for saving him was to take the crane-tail white. What? Was this even a part of the book? In the original story, the character I took over was just a barefoot doctor who could treat minor ailments. Why did it sound like I was some hidden master in their retelling? Ping Chang, Crane-tail White, the book. I reached for the jade pendant on my chest, feeling like I'd been struck by lightning. Could it be that the divine doctor they were talking about was really me? System! 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 I frantically called out to the system in my mind, but there was no response. Rongjue and Hisui noticed my dazed expression and assumed I was in shock. They patted my shoulder, trying to comfort me, urging me to think harder. Just when I thought the system had completely gone dormant and was about to give up, everything around me suddenly froze, the male and female lead's hands suspended in midair. A long yawn echoed, and the system responded in a bland tone. "Dear, this is your exclusive system. How may I assist you?" "I want to restart the storyline." The system let out a ding, its tone softening. "Dear, would you like to restart from the beginning?" "Yes, can I jump to any point in the storyline during the restart?" In principle, that is not allowed. The system paused deliberately. I stayed silent. There was a moment of tension. The system clicked its tongue. However, we do have a premium service package available, which includes features like autosave, rollback, and chapter jumping. The entire package is available for the low price of 99,999 yuan. Purchase now, and you'll also receive a one-day protagonist Halo trial voucher. Husband, rest in peace. Your wife will be leaving now. Dear, I know you're in a hurry, but hold on. We also have a 3-day trial voucher. You can choose to stay at any point in time for 3 days, but after the time limit, you'll be returned to the current timeline. Price? Only 99,000. Wait, dear, don't go first. As a thank you to our loyal customers, you can exchange in-book silver notes for a trial voucher. How much for one exchange? Only 30,000 gold. Again with the 30,000 gold. Ping Chang, it's not that I don't want to save you. I did have 30,000 gold, but now I have no idea where you've hidden it. I know where it is. Wait, so you can just deduct someone else's money directly? Then what was the point of me working so hard to earn money before? You could have just gone straight to the wealthy merchant's treasury in town. That would be illegal, dear. Don't misunderstand. Since the 30,000 gold belongs to you and your husband as shared marital property, we are authorized to deduct it after receiving written confirmation from either of you. Now, please confirm. Do you agree to deduct 30,000 gold in exchange for a 3-day trial voucher? Press 1 to agree, or 1. The sound of pages flipping filled the air, and suddenly, a long scroll appeared before me. Please select the desired storyline checkpoint. I quickly scrolled through the checkpoints, clicked on one, and continued scrolling until I found the critical event from 5 years ago that Heisui had mentioned. I clicked to confirm. As everything spun around me, I was pulled into a scroll filled with words, surrounded by a cacophony of noises that made my head spin. When I finally regained my senses, I realized that the scene before me had suddenly magnified. I had returned to 5 years ago. With no time to waste, I immediately headed to the neighboring town. I sat in the tea house across from the medical clinic, drinking cup after cup of tea, waiting anxiously. 1 hour passed. No one showed up, but I ended up making several trips to the restroom. As I came out of the restroom, I suddenly heard a familiar voice from downstairs. I hurriedly rushed to the window, leaned out, and sure enough, it was them. Heisui had lifted his bamboo hat and was standing beside the carriage, anxiously talking to an old man. I saw him take out a box, ready to head inside. Panicking, I clung to the windowsill and leaned out further, shouting, "Hey, don't feed it! Don't feed it! I can cure!" But in the noisy marketplace, no one noticed me. My body, no longer under my control, slipped from the windowsill and plunged straight down. Damn it, fell from the sky turned out to be literal. I barely had time to shout for help before I suddenly crashed into someone's arms. "Miss? Are you all right?" An earnest face appeared. Oh, it was Heisui who had caught me. At the same time, a sword was pressed against my throat. The person holding the sword spoke in a calm, eerie voice. "Miss, this person is suspicious." In shock, I blurted out, "Don't feed the crane tail white! I can cure it!" There was a moment of silence. Great, now I really seemed suspicious. Heisui, half believing, slowly moved the sword away and set me down, asking seriously, "Can you really cure my husband's illness?" I nodded frantically. She thought for a moment, then pointed at me and said, "Take her inside." The person behind her sheathed the sword, walked over to me, and, like picking up a chick, lifted me up and carried me in. I gasped. It was Ping Chang, but he was cold and indifferent, not even sparing me a glance. To avoid arousing suspicion, I pretended to take his pulse, examine him thoroughly, and finally extracted the poisonous insect from Rongjui's neck. Hisui watched as Rongjue's pale face gradually returned to normal, and finally, she sighed in relief. I also sighed in relief, because the long blade that had been pressed against my back was finally sheathed. Hisui's cold demeanor disappeared, and she thanked me profusely. Taking advantage of the moment, I asked for the crane tail white. Without hesitation, she immediately ordered someone to fetch the box from the carriage outside. Everything was going smoothly, too smoothly. I knew that if nothing unexpected happened, something unexpected was bound to happen. The sacred herb has been stolen. In a flash, a group of men suddenly appeared at the doorway, led by a man dressed in luxurious clothing. Hisui, I won't let you have the chance to save Rongjue. I've taken the crane tail white. Before any of us could react, they swiftly left. We were left standing there, stunned. Damn it, it's that second male lead again. That idiot. Poor female lead. While other stories have gentle, kind-hearted second male leads, hers is a complete idiot. You need to stay here and take care of the patient. I'll handle getting the crane tail white back. I grabbed Ping Chang and said, I'm borrowing a helping hand. Hisui nodded. Ping Chang, go with her. Make sure to retrieve the crane tail white. 2 bowls of wontons, please. Ping Chang eyed me up and down, seemingly deep in thought. After a long pause, he finally spoke. Miss, if we don't hurry and pursue them now, we might miss the chance to track them. If we delay any further. No rush, no rush. I have my own way of tracking them. I took the wonton bowl from the waiter and scooped up a spoonful, speaking with my mouth half full. I've been starving all day. Let's eat first. I didn't know where the second male lead was headed, but I knew where he'd be staying tonight. Ping Chang hesitated, then took his bowl. Just as he was about to dig in, I stopped him and called out to the waiter. Waiter, bring another bowl of clear soup wontons with no shrimp. You forgot you can't eat shrimp, didn't you? You. I took his bowl with a grin and interrupted. Both bowls are mine now. Come on, eat up. It won't taste as good if it gets cold. He quietly accepted the new bowl of wontons the waiter brought, then glanced at me again. According to the original story, Huo Zhao and his men were staying at the Yulai Inn tonight, a place that was actually a black inn. I quietly lifted a roof tile and peeked inside, seeing Huo Zhao and his group sprawled across the tables in the front hall, fast asleep. Just as described in the book. Soon, the innkeeper and his staff entered the room, but before they could do anything, Huo Zhao's men easily overpowered them. Impossible! You all clearly ate it, so how could... You think we're idiots? There was powder on the rim of the cup. What? You think you're adding seasoning or something? One of Huo Zhao's men had a look on his face that said, You think we're that stupid? I knew it was you, you useless fool. No, master. I made sure to add the drug very carefully. Haha, I was the one who added the powder to the cups. But the next moment, I saw bodies lying everywhere and blood splattered all over the floor. I stopped heh-hahing. I leaned back, tightly covering my mouth, not daring to breathe. Why hasn't Ping Chang come back yet? He was supposed to signal with 2 cat meows after getting the box. Was this really the skill level of the top assassin? Enjoying the view? All the hairs on my body stood on end in an instant. I widened my eyes in disbelief, staring at Huo Zhao beside me, with a knife pressed against my waist. Help! I shut my eyes tight, felt a gust of wind on my face, and a warm sensation at my waist. Open your eyes! It was Ping Chang. Ping Chang! What took you so long? Didn't we agree on cat meows as the signal? My voice trembled as I spoke. He paused, hesitating before replying. Cat meows? I couldn't do it? By then, a group of people had quietly surrounded us from above. You two sure ran fast. Well, so did you all. At Huo Zhao's command, the front row crouched down, revealing a group of crossbowmen in the back. This is bad. Huo Zhao stared at us from a distance, his expression unreadable. If you want me to spare you, fine. Just throw that box. He pointed to the item in Ping Chang's hand, into the ravine behind you. The second male lead was pretty wild. I snatched the box and, with a swift whoosh, hurled it behind me. Done. Huo Zhao was dumbfounded, clearly not expecting me to be so decisive, but he quickly regained his composure and waved his hand. Fire! Damn! I knew you were up to no good. A rain of arrows came flying at us. If we didn't move, we'd end up like pincushions. I grabbed Ping Chang, and as soon as I did, I realized we were on a slope. We tumbled down, rolling uncontrollably. As we rolled down the slope, I felt like all my insides had been jumbled up. Huo Zhao's men weren't giving up and chased after us relentlessly. Can we escape? We can, but with 2 people, it might be diffy. All right then, off you go. I released my grip and shoved him away. With the built-in safety system, I figured I wouldn't die from jumping off a cliff. I closed my eyes and rolled down into the ravine, plunging into the water below. After swallowing several mouthfuls of water, I finally resurfaced. To my surprise, I saw a familiar face bobbing up and down in the water. How did he end up here too? This is bad. He can't swim. Ignoring my exhaustion, I quickly dove back into the water. Fortunately, the river wasn't wide, and I managed to pull Ping Chang out after a while. I broke through the surface and wiped the water from my face. Ping Chang weakly hung his head, leaning against me, completely motionless, his face terrifyingly pale. I struggled to hold onto his waist as I dragged him ashore. I checked his breath, faint and shallow. I clasped my hands together and pressed down on his abdomen, trying to get him to expel the water from his lungs. But his jaw was clenched tight, his body unresponsive. Kneeling beside him, I leaned forward, took a deep breath, and pressed my lips to his cold ones, gently passing the air from my mouth into his. Suddenly, I felt a tightness on my back as an arm wrapped around me, and before I knew it, I was pulled into his embrace. Miss? Ping Chang had regained consciousness, and our eyes locked. He quickly pushed me away, his ears turning a quiet shade of red. I let out a sharp hiss. Miss, are you all right? Despite the blood seeping from his shoulder, staining his entire robe, he looked at me with concern. His usually cold expression was now tinged with a hint of helplessness. The person before me overlapped with the Ping Chang in my memories. All the anger I had felt toward him vanished. I tore a strip of fabric from the hem of my skirt and used it to quickly secure his arm. He looked at my torn skirt and said anxiously, "How could you ruin such a fine drying dress?" I dismissed his concern and replied, "I can always buy another. Money is meant to be spent. We shouldn't be slaves to it. After all, it's your money I'm spending anyway." Ping Chang surveyed the surroundings carefully. "This place is remote. There might be wild animals around. We shouldn't stay here long. Miss, can you walk?" "I can." He found a branch and handed it to me, gesturing for me to hold onto it. I was slightly stunned for a moment, then I quickly snatched the branch away and intertwined fingers directly with his. "It's too dark. This way it's safer to hold on." I couldn't see his expression, but I felt his hand tremble slightly, yet he didn't pull away. Suddenly, I felt a playful urge and wanted to tease him. "Do you think the box might have fallen nearby? Could you help me look for it?" "The crane-tail white is with you." I was taken aback. He had figured it out. In fact, I was just pretending earlier to trick Huo Zhao. He could even go back on his word after promising the male lead. If I had believed him, I'd really have been out of my mind. "You knew all along, yet you still dared to jump with me." I promised my master to ensure Mrs. safety and to retrieve the crane-tail white. Are you some kind of program? The difference between Ping Chang from 5 years ago and 5 years later is quite significant. We reached the riverbank. It wasn't yet the flood season, so most of the riverbed was exposed. The riverbank was strewn with rocks with very little vegetation. Having walked all the way from the mountains, we were exhausted, so we decided to stop and rest. I gathered some dry branches I had picked up along the way and started trying to make a fire by rubbing sticks together. But Ping Chang had already used a flint he carried to get a fire going. I picked up a branch to try catching some fish, but Ping Chang casually took the same branch and with a single hand speared a fish in the water right through. I spent quite a while fiddling with the knife, trying to figure out how to gut the fish. Seeing this, Ping Chang helplessly took the knife from me and, with swift and practiced motions, scaled the fish, gutted it, and removed the intestines, swim bladder, and gills, all in one go. Watching him skillfully roast the fish, I squatted down beside him and said, "I thought you might even know how to make fish slices." "What is fish slices?" "It's where you slice fresh raw fish into thin pieces and season it with some condiments. It's delicious." "I've never heard of that before. Is it a dish from your hometown?" I realized I had slipped up, so I quickly changed the subject and exaggeratedly praised him as I moved closer. With skills like yours, you could rival the top chefs at Bajian restaurant. It smells amazing. Is that so? I tilted my head, trying to see if he was smiling. Just as I did, he turned his head as well. Seeing how close my face was, he flinched as if I had burned him. His fingers fidgeted nervously, and with a reddened face, he stammered, You should go gather more firewood." "Sure thing," I chuckled to myself. His tendency to get shy hadn't changed at all. Having eaten our fill, even the sense of danger seemed to fade. I leisurely washed my face by the river while Ping Chang added more wood to the fire. As I rolled up my sleeves to wash my arms, I glanced over and saw Ping Chang secretly watching me. I squinted at him playfully. "You're sneaking a peek at me." He immediately lowered his head. "Miss!" "Stop calling me Miss all the time. I have a name. My name is Su Mei." I wiped my hands on my clothes, then walked over and grabbed his hand, writing slowly and deliberately, "This Su Mei, remember it." I looked up at him. He gazed back at me, the firelight reflecting in his dark eyes, shimmering like the surface of a lake. "Got it." Our clothes had finally dried out a bit. He found some dry grass, laid out his dried outer garment on top, and had me lie down to rest, while he leaned against a tree trunk. "I am having trouble falling asleep." I lay on my side, looking at him. "How about we chat?" He didn't speak, but he turned his body toward me. "You seem very skilled. Why are you working as someone's bodyguard?" The corner of his mouth seemed to twitch slightly. His lips quivered, and then he spoke. "I'm an orphan. It was my master's father who took me in." "If your master no longer needed you, what would you do?" His gaze suddenly turned sharp, startling me. I quickly added, just hypothetically. "Is Miss Su Mei seeking the crane-tail white to save someone?" All right, he was probing me. It seemed he didn't trust me. For someone who's been very kind to me. Is it also out of gratitude? Well, it's not the same as your situation. He's kind to me because he likes me, and I'm kind to him because I like him too. He frowned slightly. "Is he your lover?" "Yes." I sat up straight and began telling him about Ah Ping and me. So I asked him to earn 30,000 gold for me, and he actually did it. What do you think? Isn't he really silly? As I kept talking, I started to feel sleepy. In a drowsy haze, I seemed to hear him say something. He is quite silly. At the break of dawn, I was awakened by the sound of groaning. Ping Chang had a fever. When I lifted his body, I discovered that his back was soaked with blood. As we rolled down the ravine, it seemed like something had held on to me. Could it be? His injuries were so severe, and he probably managed to hold on until now, only because of his strong constitution. Beads of sweat as large as soybeans rolled down his forehead. I had originally planned to wait until daylight to get him out of the mountains and then return, but in this condition, how could we possibly move? Suddenly, I heard the sound of people talking outside. Who had found us? Was it those men in black? Ping Chang. Ping Chang, Miss Divine Doctor. It was he, Sui. Overjoyed, I quickly grasped Ping Chang's hand, helped him up, and limping, dragged him out while shouting, "Over here! We're over here!" In the carriage, I wiped the cold sweat from Ping Chang's forehead with my sleeve. Even though he was burning with fever, since the male and female leads had arrived, he should be fine now. I took out the jade pendant and put it on him, then pulled out a letter I had prepared earlier from my pocket and tucked it into his collar. I leaned down and kissed the corner of his lips. "You have to get better. I'm going back to save you." He frowned slightly. "Dear, are you ending the trial early?" "Yes." After a blinding white light, I found myself back in the system space. Suddenly, with a whoosh, images appeared all around me. It was a holographic projection of the world from the book, incredibly lifelike, as if I were actually there. Different versions of the original character moved back and forth around me, and I finally understood why I had found the record in the book so strange. It was clear that different personalities had been controlling the original character. "System, come out and explain. What's going on here?" The system spoke in a coy, hesitant voice. "Oh, dear, don't be mad. It's just a small matter." After the system explained everything in detail, I finally understood. With the rise of book traveling experiences, the standard book traveling setup no longer satisfied high-end clients. To retain VIP customers, the company had started integrating ChatGPT into the book traveling system. They attracted lower-tier customers with low prices to feed data into the system, continuously optimizing and training the NPCs in the books, guiding them towards developing self-awareness. So, you illegally collected our data? Dear. Well, although many users participated in our test, only you. The system emphasized only you were able to successfully activate an NPC's self-awareness. Based on the data you provided, we've already managed to simulate a new storyline. So, you illegally collected my data? The system replied frankly, we've already hired data compliance legal experts, and we're establishing a data compliance system internally. Future data collection will be compliant and legal, so rest assured. Additionally, the company would like to form a partnership with you. Please visit the back office, where we can discuss everything in detail. I still have someone to save. The medicine has already been delivered to the book world, and the male and female leads are currently rescuing Ping Chang. As for you, you're temporarily in a coma. All right, I hesitated, then added, but I have one request. Of course, dear. What is it? I want to see images of Ping Chang during the 5 years after I left. Although it was lifelike, I couldn't touch him. Even though I had written in the letter for him to find me 5 years later, he kept sneaking into the mountains to see me. Watching him go from hopeful anticipation to disappointment, he must have realized that those people weren't me. I gently embraced him from behind. He suddenly turned around, and for a moment, I thought he had seen me. But his gaze passed through me, looking toward something behind me. It was me, appearing with a bamboo basket on my back. So that day, he had wanted to say goodbye to me, which was why he gave me the jade pendant. He hadn't expected that I would return, and I had forgotten him. I saw his lips tremble as he softly mouthed those two words. Sume. A blinding flash of white light swept by, and I reached out, touching a hand. That hand quickly grasped mine. My hand was pulled to someone's cheek, gently caressing it. The prickly stubble scratched against my skin, causing a bit of pain. I forced my eyes open and saw a man with a pale face and short stubble, looking at me in disbelief, his lips trembling. I stroked his stubbled face and softly said, "How did you end up like this after just a short while?" "A short while? It's been 7 days." 7 days? I thought you had left me again. Ping Chang's eyes were red, and I leaned in to kiss him, feeling a pang of heartache. "I told you to find me after 5 years. Why were you so silly?" It took him a moment to register what I was saying. His eyes, wide with surprise, gleamed with an extraordinary brightness, and he pulled me into a tight embrace. His cheek pressed against mine, his body trembling slightly. I felt a cool, wet sensation on my face, but I wasn't crying. So Ping Chang was crying. He was just like a child. I'm back. This is the end of the main story. Next is the extra parts. The first one, titled Home, is where the heart finds peace. Wife? If someone offered you 30,000 gold, would you leave me? It was that same question again. In the early days of our marriage, he often tested me with this question from time to time. I never knew how to answer it. After all, back then, I was only trying to gather 30,000 gold to go back home. When I got really tired of hearing it, I would give him a perfunctory response. How could I leave you for a mere 30,000 gold? Then he would continue with his work, satisfied. Meanwhile, I would touch my chest and sigh inwardly. If it exceeds 30,000, I might consider it. Unexpectedly, even to this day, he still asked me this question. In fact, I knew he wasn't asking just for fun, because when he waited for my answer, his eyes seemed both nervous and expectant. I kissed him as usual and said, "Of course not." He sighed in relief, then reached out to embrace me. His voice carried a sly mix of weakness and honesty. "I don't believe you, unless you lie down and let me hold you." After a bit of playful tussling, Ping Chang got up from the bed and mentioned that the emperor had given him a task, so he had to go out for a while. As I watched his back, I silently mouthed the words behind him. "I won't leave anymore, you silly." Yes, I could stay with him now. As for time, well, it could be as long as it needed to be, as long as I wished. That day, in the carriage, I saw something when I detached from my original body. This body had been used by countless users before, each one with their own unique playstyle. After seeing it all, I knelt on the ground, hugging my head. My image in Ping Chang's eyes, "Ah! You sold one account to multiple people. illegally collected user data, and even unlawfully detained users. I'll report you to the central authorities. I'm going to report you. In situations like these, you need to be forceful and assertive. After all, in a modern legal society, this is how you resolve disputes effectively. Please calm down. Take a look at this contract. I assure you it will satisfy you. I slowly opened the contract, reading it line by line. After much negotiation, the contract was finalized and signed. I reached an amicable agreement with the Transmigration Bureau. Essentially, I became a highly paid senior administrator for the Bureau, with the ability to freely traverse between the system space and the real world. My job was to periodically return to the real world to assist the system in selecting representatives and repairing data. Of course, I usually chose to do this while I was asleep. And if Ping Chang isn't around, I might take a nap, earning some overtime pay to contribute to the household. After returning that day, I vaguely felt that he might have figured something out. In those early days after I returned, my transition back to the real world wasn't smooth, because he would always wake me up whenever I fell asleep to talk to me. He stubbornly chased away all my sleepiness. Only after I responded to him with a few words would he allow me to go back to sleep. He said he was afraid that my soul would leave my body at midnight and that I'd be gone again. He had to wake me up to make sure. I was so frustrated I could grind my teeth, yet I was helpless. After all, he was looking at me with those bright, wide eyes, pitiful and anxious, making it impossible for me to get angry. Wife? Wasn't he supposed to be out? After thinking it over, I realized I forgot something. I looked up at him with a face full of confusion, only to be pulled into his arms. He kissed my lips, forceful and domineering. After a long while, I went limp in his arms, and with a hoarse voice, he curled his lips. I just had a feeling that you were up to no good again, so you need to be punished. Forget it, whether he knew or not. Some things didn't need to be explained too clearly. This was fine too. Next is the extra from Ping Chang's perspective. From a young age, I knew that useless people could be abandoned at any moment. So I didn't blame my parents at all for leaving me behind when I was burning with a high fever just to save food. Later on, I met a group of people who took me in. They also took in many other children who had been abandoned like me, but I knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch. The training was grueling. Some of the other children couldn't hold on and were taken away by the servants to rest. But I didn't dare slack off, because the children who were taken away, I never saw them again. My master said I had an exceptional natural talent, that I was a good seed for martial arts. It was only later that I learned we were all secretly trained as assassins under Emperor Yuankang. At first, when my master ordered me to kill, I hesitated and my hands trembled. But after witnessing throats being slit and blood being spilled, I no longer even furrowed my brows. I entered the palace at 6, started my missions at 13, stealing intelligence and taking lives across different nations. In just a few short years, I grew from a naive boy into a seasoned assassin who was accustomed to death and slaughter. At 16, I became the most feared assassin in Jianghu. It was also then that I was assigned to serve under Crown Prince Rong Jue, who became my new master. He said he wanted to form an army called the Long Night Army. I initially thought he wanted to cultivate a group of spies loyal to him, but he shook his head. He said he wanted to nurture children. I didn't understand what he was trying to do at first. Until I saw teachers from various fields entering the palace, some to teach academics, others martial arts, others to manage accounts, trade, or practice medicine. As these children grew older, followed their strengths. Some joined the military, some became small merchants, others became doctors in clinics. They gathered intelligence and carried out missions for Master. But beyond that, they were free to live out their lives according to the identities they had chosen. Master asked me if I had ever thought about choosing an identity and what kind of life I wanted to live. I thought about it and shook my head. No matter what identity I chose, in the end, it was just being a spy. If that's the case, wouldn't it be the same if I continued being an assassin? Master, however, sighed deeply and told me that perhaps one day after I met someone, I might not think this way anymore. And then I met Sume. The first time Sume fell from the sky, I didn't trust her at all. At that time, Master was injured, and after fruitless attempts to find a cure, Miss Heisui suggested using the sacred herb Cranetail White from her clan. And that's when Sume appeared. At first, I thought she was someone who hid her wisdom behind a facade of foolishness, but later I realized that she was genuinely dumb in some matters. Otherwise, how could someone be so careless and full of contradictions? She claimed she wasn't a spy, but knew we had the Cranetail White. She insisted she didn't know me, but somehow knew I couldn't eat shrimp. She didn't seem in a hurry to retrieve the lost item, but knew exactly which inn Huozhao was staying at. She always did things in such a quirky and unpredictable way that left me both baffled and amused. Perhaps that's why, for the first time in my life, I became curious about someone. Jumping off the cliff was an accident. My original plan was to roll down the ravine with her, then use my strength to leap onto a nearby low slope, ensuring we both landed safely. But to my surprise, she pushed me away, choosing to fall alone so I could escape. In the past, I would have left her behind, found another way down the mountain, and then searched for her. But this time, I made the dumbest choice. I jumped after her, holding her as we fell. Even though she had barely survived and made it to shore, she still went back into the water to pull me out, knowing I couldn't swim. When she kissed me, even though my mind was somewhat hazy, I could clearly feel her lips, cold and soft, sending a tingling sensation throughout my body. Instinctively, I tightened my embrace, wanting to deepen the kiss. But when I realized what I was doing, I suddenly jolted awake and struggled to push her away. What was I doing? Yet she didn't seem to mind my abruptness. Instead, she looked amused, as if toying with me was entertaining. Could it be that she really did know me? She asked me what I would want to do if Master no longer needed me. I was startled. The words my master had once spoken echoed in my ears. It felt like she had seen right through me, so I quickly changed the subject. But she then mentioned that she had someone she loved. Hearing her talk about the man who treated her so well left me with an uncomfortable feeling. Master's words kept playing in my mind. For the first time, I cared about someone, but that person already had someone else in their heart. Whenever she spoke of him, she would always add, "Isn't he silly?" But the smile on her face never faded. It seemed that man truly treated her well, and she really liked him too. Later, Miss Heisui sent people to rescue us. When I woke up, she was gone. Just like that. She left behind a letter and a jade pendant. She disappeared. It felt like a dream. In the letter, she asked me to find her at Mount Lee 5 years later. I didn't understand why it had to be 5 years later. I couldn't help myself and went looking for her early. At first, I only watched her from a distance. But as time passed, I realized something was off. Those people didn't seem like Sume. Sometimes she would be in the courtyard, crying and shouting into the empty space, muttering something about the system being a scam. A few days later, she'd spend all her time sleeping in the courtyard. Other times, she'd go down to the town, eating and drinking excessively, even flirting with handsome men she encountered along the way. I knew that wasn't Sume, so I didn't get angry. "Hey, handsome!" My pen broke. I pulled out a new one from my bundle. To figure out what was really going on, I kept detailed notes on her daily activities. I began to understand why she asked me to come in 5 years. It was because she wouldn't appear until then, and it was then that we would meet. Could it be that the person she wanted to save was me? Just as I thought I understood, I became confused again. Before every mission, I would go to see her. In the past, I never thought there was much danger in living a life on the edge, constantly risking my life. But now, I was afraid. I worried that if I went on this mission, I might not return. What if Sume happened to come back this time? With this hope in my heart, I finally made it to the 5th year. That day, I was ambushed and seriously injured. I forced myself to hold on for a long time before finally making it back, but in the end, I collapsed from exhaustion. She saved me, but just like before, she didn't recognize me. The hope I had been holding on to finally died. It turned out she had deceived me. Huozhao's men were probably still hunting down the Long Night Army. Since Sume wasn't coming back, I had nothing left to hold on to. As expected, even she abandoned me. I gave her the jade pendant. I decided to leave as soon as possible, but then she said her name was Sume. Over the past 5 years, I had encountered many versions of her, but none of them were called Sume. Only she said she was. At that moment, my heart that had died came back to life. But why didn't she recognize me? As I watched her take the jade pendant, panic set in. Could it be that the person she spoke of, the one she loved, was really someone else? I shouldn't have given away the token so soon, but none of that really mattered. I decided to stay. When she asked me to help her earn 30,000 gold, I was both surprised and confused. Surprised because I could now be certain that she was the Sume I had been looking for. Confused because of the mention of this 30,000 gold again. Over the years, I had actually earned more than 30,000 gold, but I didn't dare give it to her hastily. I didn't know what she needed such an amount for, but I had a hunch that it was connected to why she was here. And I also needed to find out who exactly her beloved was. Take it slow, think it through, I told myself, holding back my excitement. Every day spent with her felt vibrant and alive. Until one night, I heard some faint noises coming from the next room. I got up quietly to investigate, only to discover that it was her, counting silver notes. Hehe, I'm going home! I'm going home! I smiled. She was just too adorable. Then she mentioned that once she earned 30,000 gold, she could leave this world. I stopped smiling. Memories of our time together flashed through my mind. A strange thought crossed my mind. It might be hard to believe, but what if she wasn't human? What if she was a spirit or a ghost? If that were true, she could leave at any moment. I started feeling anxious, but then I saw a way out. She needed 30,000 gold to leave. So what if she didn't have that amount? Well, I wasn't really doing anything wrong. I just bought a lot of things she liked, fulfilling her needs, no matter the cost. I worked hard to earn money, and I worked just as hard to spend it on her. There was no conflict in that. At first, she seemed to complain about it, but gradually, she seemed quite satisfied with this arrangement. The night of the Lantern Festival was also an accident. We drank, and while I didn't get drunk, she did, and she started acting wild. She pinned me down, tugging at my clothes, teasing me as she said, "You know, I saved you because you're handsome." So she liked my appearance. I was secretly delighted. But why is it so hard to flirt with you when you're so good-looking? Flirt? Then she kissed me, and I was stunned. Finally got to kiss you! I've wanted to do that for a long time. With her warm, soft body in my arms, I blushed furiously, my mind racing. In a hoarse voice, I asked, "Is there anything else you want to do?" Anything? She looked so excited, laughing naively, not realizing she was already in the lion's den. I narrowed my eyes slightly, coaxing her, "Yes." After sobering up, I was quite anxious. I knew I had taken advantage of the situation, but she just looked at me with an expression that said, "Don't worry, I'll take responsibility." It made me both happy and defeated. Sume became my wife. Whoever her heart belonged to before, well, he lost his chance. Since he was too late, he shouldn't bother showing up. Taking care of the household, cooking, and looking after her? I could do that. I would take his place and take good care of Sume. I'd do it even better than he ever could. I started working even harder to earn money, and even harder to spend it on her. Sume seemed to no longer be in a hurry to leave. My efforts weren't in vain after all. But the good times didn't last. That scoundrel Huo Zhao just wouldn't go away. Tsk! You forced my hand. I had no choice but to ask Master to step in and deal with him. During this time, the brothers of the Long Night Army kept coming to report their progress. I told them to keep it down. Sigh, forget it. It's understandable that those without families wouldn't get it, so I forgave them. But maybe they still disturb my wife's sleep. Lately, I've noticed that she often looks grumpy, probably because she hasn't been sleeping well. Even at night, she frowns in her sleep. I had one of the brothers rush to the coast to bring me a fresh fish. As for how to prepare it, I decided to use the method from her hometown, fish slices. She'd be so surprised. But it seemed like she sneaked a glance at me. Did I do something wrong again? Could it be that she doesn't like fish slices anymore? Oh, I get it now. My wife's leg was injured. It was that scoundrel again. I hadn't intended to confront him so soon, but he's crossed the line by targeting my wife. I had no choice but to take action. I crippled one of his hands. But they outnumbered us, and Sume was still asleep. I had to endure his threats for the time being and wait until daylight to seek out my brothers and master to devise a plan. But Sumei's words seemed to carry hidden meanings. Did she figure it out? I couldn't reveal everything just yet. What if it scared her? I planned to slip back while she was asleep. But I didn't fool her. She wasn't asleep. She tricked me. My wife is so clever. Then she pretended to be fierce and questioned me, but I teased her a bit, and she got flustered. My wife is so adorable. Wait a minute. This isn't good. She must have found the silver and the book hidden under the floor tiles. I had to half coax and half deceive her, kissing her until she was dazed, and managed to cover it up for now. My original plan was to deal with Huojiao first, then slowly explain everything to her. But what if she got mad and ran away? So, I used some tactics. I took the silver with me. I even arranged for someone to disguise themselves as Uncle Chen to keep her occupied. Everything was in place, just one more step to go. Then I messed up again. Psk! We got caught in Huojiao's trap again. I was poisoned. Even in my unconscious state, I could clearly hear their conversation. So it turns out, the person Sumei wanted to save was really me. The person she loved was me. I knew it. Suddenly, the pain in my chest and the soreness in my shoulder vanished. Even if I died, it would be worth it. No, I can't die. Sigh, this little liar. I gently caressed her with my palm, then lowered my lips and softly bit her. Why are you biting me? Because you bullied me. How did I bully you? Clearly, you're the one bullying me. As she trembled softly, I tightened my grip, my voice deep and husky. Yes, I'm bullying you. I wanted to keep her. And I did keep her.